It's Matt from Z93's Morning After. I am joined on the phone this morning by an actor whose name you may not recognize, but there is a good chance you have seen him on the small or the big screen. Alan Maxson from Bay City, set to appear in Godzilla, King of the Monsters. We'll talk about that coming up, but your career in Hollywood actually started right here at Delta College. Is that correct?
That's correct. I started at Delta College in the broadcasting program. After I graduated with my associates there, I moved to Florida and got my bachelor's in video production. And then I moved out to California where all the work was and started working as crew and post-production and worked my way up and slowly got on sets to be a performer.
So I've looked at your IMDb page, and you have a lot of credits where you've done a lot of kind of smaller movie monsters. What was the first role as a movie monster you had?
Well, the very first one that I had was a movie called Thanksgiving Part 3. And a lot of people have seen the first one. And the third one is actually the second because they skipped Part 2. I was editing that, and they flew me to South Dakota, and I worked on that for about 3 weeks. And while I was there, they needed somebody to get into one of the monster suits and do a stunt where I bust through the door with an arm cannon. And I was like, I'll do it. And that was the first time I got in a monster suit for a film.
Strangely enough, at a previous job that I had, I wrote a blog about the movie Thanksgiving as like the premier Thanksgiving horror movie that you need to see.
That's great. It's fun. It's a good movie, and those guys are great, Jordan and Kevin. I definitely think it is a must-see for Thanksgiving time.
So when you go through the program at Delta and you go through the program down in Florida, do you decide, at some point you're like, you know what, I'm going to try this movie monster thing, or does it just kind of work out where they needed somebody, you were in the right place at the right time, you love it, and now you've kind of turned that into a career?
I've loved monsters my entire life. Ever since I was a kid, I remember walking around pretending to be Cornelius from the original Planet of the Apes movies, and I remember wanting one of the most realistic Jim Henson Ninja Turtle costumes from the original Turtle movies. And every action figure I've ever had as a kid was always, Hellraiser, Aliens, Gremlins. It was never a human. So it was very much a choice and what I have always loved and wanted to do.
Joined on the phone by Alan Maxson. He will appear in the upcoming movie Godzilla, King of the Monsters. That'll be in theaters in May 2019. Alan, how did you find out that you had actually gotten the role as one of the heads of King Ghidorah in Godzilla, King of the Monsters?
My agent actually had emailed me and said, these guys want you to do motion capture for Godzilla. Are you interested? And my immediate thought was, yes, of course I'm interested. And so we went through the rigmarole of setting up the meeting and went in and met with Michael Daugherty and the whole VFX team of the movie. And they liked me enough, and they brought me on, and I went from there.
How different was it filming Godzilla, King of the Monsters as opposed to Thanksgiving 3? Because I assume the production budget alone is astronomical and hugely different.
Yeah, it is. It's more different in the sense of what's entailed, because most of my monsters I've played are practical. So it's either a suit or makeup, prosthetics, things that take hours to get into. Whereas since this is motion capture, it's just a Lycra suit with sensor balls to track all of my movement. So it takes, 10, 15 minutes to get into. So that's the big difference in that one.
How do you prepare to be the head, one of the heads of King Ghidorah? How do you prep yourself for that first day on set?
A lot of physical. So almost all of my roles are stunt heavy. So I'll prepare with a lot of stretches and a lot of physical demanding things under heat and just being able to sustain long durations of weird crouching positions. And particularly for Godzilla, I had seen a number of Godzilla movies, obviously, as most people have, but before I went in, I had made sure to do my homework, and I watched all of the movies that had Ghidorah in it, which is quite a few of them, and he even makes an appearance in a Mothra trilogy that Godzilla's not even in. So I studied all of those just to make sure I knew this character inside and out.
The movie stars Millie Bobby Brown. You may know her as Eleven from Stranger Things. Vera Farmiga is in the movie. Bradley Whitford, Kyle Chandler. So this is a movie, you talk about Thanksgiving 3, obviously. Maybe not a lot of people are aware of that, but this is going to be a really big sort of summer blockbuster film that you get to be a part of.
Oh, yeah. I genuinely think this will be one of the top 5 movies of 2019. It's a good movie. I think even non-Godzilla fans will love this film.
Now, you can't talk a lot about the movie because you don't want to give away a lot of the plot. But how does it relate to? Is it a completely new story from the previous Godzilla movie that was released a few years ago with Bryan Cranston?
It's actually a sequel to that. So it takes place, I want to say I read somewhere it's supposed to be 5 years or something afterwards. And if you saw Kong Skull Island, that's intertwined with it as well. Because at the end of that movie, they actually tease the monsters that will be in this movie.
Godzilla King of the Monsters is going to be out in theaters in May 2019. Have you had the chance to see the movie yet in its entirety?
I have.
And do you want to give us a quick Rotten Tomatoes sort of score? I assume because you're in it, you're going to say it's 100%. You need to go see it.
Oh, 100. It is great. It's amazing. I have seen almost all 35 Godzilla films, and this is hands down the best one out of all of them.
Are you only saying that because you're in it?
No.
Joined on the phone by Alan Maxson, Delta College graduate. He is now out in Hollywood, set to appear in Godzilla King of the Monsters in May 2019. And I assume that starring in this movie is going to open up the door for you for a ton of other different roles in Hollywood.
Absolutely. I've already filmed a number of things since then, and I have a number of other offers that are happening, and the snowball just keeps rolling, and it's getting bigger and bigger. So it's definitely a great opportunity, and it'll be a great thing that will last for the rest of my life. I think a lot of these diehard Godzilla fans, they are very excited about this, and I've already been reached out to by countless ones with fan art, and both my Twitter and Instagram have doubled in followers over just the one weekend when they released the trailer at Comic-Con.
Speaking of the Twitter and Instagram, why don't you give us those handles so we know where to follow you to kind of follow your adventure in Hollywood?
Oh, yeah. It's Monster Maxson, and it's Monster_MAXSON. And I'll post everything that I can about all the different movies and then all the monsters. There's usually pretty cool pics because there's not very any human photos.
You can find him on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find him on the big screen. Godzilla King of the Monsters will be out in theaters May 2019. It stars Vera Farmiga, Millie Bobby Brown, Kyle Chandler, and one of the 3 heads of King Ghidorah, Alan Maxson, will be on the big screen as well. Alan, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to check in, and looking forward to seeing the movie when it hits theaters in 2019.
Oh, thank you. It's going to be exciting. I'm very pumped for it.